What is going on today, Dallas Mavericks fans and MFFLs? I hope you guys had a great Christmas, holidays. Obviously, we're heading to the new year, so you're going to be focused in on what the Dallas Mavericks are doing right now, especially sitting with an 18-12 record right now, which is fifth in the Western Conference, but that does not mean much right now because, again, the Western Conference is so locked in right now. Teams, I believe, from the first seed to the sixth seed, I believe, is only separated by about 5 games, so you're going to continue to be able to see some movement night to night. Pretty much. We're not going to say weekly to weekly. We're talking about nightly to nightly. You're going to see the West Conference standings continue to move. So the Dallas Mavericks are still being able to see themselves in the thick of that is just a good sight because, again, this team also has dealt with so many injuries, obviously. Dealing with guys like Derek Lively, 19-year-old rookie out of Duke for the Dallas Mavericks, who has been a major improvement from what we've become accustomed to at the center position for this team. Then having guys like Kyrie Irving missing some games. That unfortunate play from Dwight Powell ends up landing on Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving has missed the last few games again. Now, obviously, a guy we've kind of become accustomed to, especially because obviously we saw the records and how things went towards the end of last season with that Luka Doncic Kyrie Irving combination for the games that they did play together last season. We were kind of obviously this offseason training camp was going to be about pretty much just meshing the team around those two and just having a guy like Kyrie Irving solidify to be that secondary piece to a Kyrie Irving that takes some pressure off, which we've seen in some games this season so far. But not having him in the mix for some of these games has hurt the team. You've seen Josh Green, no matter what your opinion is of him as a player overall, he's still a rotational piece for this team. Maxi Kleber, up and down type guy. Not a guy I don't really count on anything at this point of his career. I believe he's missed about 25, 26 games this year. 25 games, I believe, for the Mavericks this year. So this is going to be a team you're going to still be asking, what exactly is the ceiling for this team? And I feel like as long as we have a Luka Doncic that's healthy in the mix, you're going to continue to see this team reach new levels as the season goes on. I still think there are a few things this team, not even really a few, I'll say a couple. I still think there are a couple things the Dallas Mavericks themselves need to do to solidify this team overall, because you're going to be obviously having to go against some of the better teams when you get to the postseason, if that's where this team ends up reaching this year, which we're hoping it is, obviously. But when you're having guys now in the mix like a Derrick Jones Jr., who has shown that he's just not that athletic, only high-flying type player, I believe already passing his career three-point, I guess his statistics, what he's done so far in his career, he's already topped those just this one season with the Dallas Mavericks from what he's done yearly to yearly on any other team. This is a guy that I've seen, again, obviously we do know he's that long, lengthy type defender, athletic playmaker, and we've seen him just make so many plays just in transition, but just being able to play off of Luka Doncic. I believe in his last game against the Phoenix Suns, which I'll talk about just in a second quickly, but just in his last game, Luka Doncic is a nice lob pass from behind the three-point line to a Derrick Jones Jr. Again, just a guy that's not afraid of contact. He's not afraid of driving to the rim, and that's just big become what we've been used to, having your Reggie Bullocks and your Dorian Finney-Smith type players out here on the perimeter, guys that are more predominantly based on your 3-and-D type players, which they can't really do much for themselves if a play breaks down. And that, to me, has kind of been what's been holding the Dallas Mavericks back as time has gone on. We're looking for more versatile players, and we have definitely found them. Obviously, also throwing in Dante Exum, who deserves so much love from this team because what he's in his fan base in general, I'll say, but especially what he's just brought, a former top first-round pick years ago, I believe. What was a 2015 draft, I believe, something like that. We're talking about years ago, and finding himself playing overseas, and then all of a sudden, now you're finding yourself in a training camp with the Dallas Mavericks. A lot of questions are going to be asked. Is he going to be just maybe that third ball handler for this team to kind of run the show for the second unit? But he's shown he is much more than that. A guy that gets since Kyrie Irving finding himself out of the lineup with the injury. You're seeing a Dante Exum step in and just show he is an actual capable jump shooter. A guy that's knocked down the three-point at a solid level, especially to the point now where other teams are actually having to focus on him. And he's still being quick and crafty enough to be able to penetrate and drive to the basket. And a lot of times it's going to open up other things for other guys, obviously. It's just a great sight. Again, the Dallas Mavericks, I'm going to give Nico Harrison some love and some credit for right now. Again, we still have a couple moves I feel like this team should make, or at least, again, not even a specific player maybe, but per se just what this team still needs to add to solidify this team overall. But Nico Harrison deserves a lot of credit for what he did bring to this team. Obviously, we can also talk about the trade from Grant Williams, regardless of the up and down kind of tenure we've seen so far from Grant Williams from the Boston Celtics with this team, he's still has been a very big contributing player to this team. More so on, I'm going to say defensively, the shot has been up and down. He's had some games where he's been able to score offensively. But Grant Williams, again, I feel he's just more one of those guys you're going to kind of throw in the mix and see him. It's just kind of that leadership that he does bring to the team. He brings his team accountability, and we kind of saw that throughout the training camp process. He's very vocal. Most of the guys talk about how, again, you never see Grant Williams having too many down days or anything. So he's always one of those guys that are going to continue to be able to pick up a locker room and keep guys going throughout a long season. And that's invaluable, because there's some of those things that sometimes it doesn't show up on the stat sheet. But again, it's very big and very important to a team in the long run of a long season, especially a team with a playoff potential and playoff goals, and hopefully being able to try to go on some kind of run. You're going to need just gritty, solid players like a Grant Williams that can kind of do a couple things here and there. Like I said, as this team, pretty much, there's not much to go on outside of the simple fact of, let's talk about Luka Doncic. Obviously, this season has been, again, just a bit up and down, just because he is dealing with some of those injuries. And I will say, over the last few games, you've seen a Luka Doncic playing these 38, 40-plus minute games, and that kind of had me a little worried, just because that's not something you want to kind of beat down on a guy with the potential of a Luka Doncic, because you want to get him through the season as healthy as you can, which is why the Kyrie Irving re-signing to me was very important for this team. But Luka Doncic, up to this level, I can say simple and plain, Luka Doncic is an MVP, and I believe he should be the MVP leader right now. Again, that doesn't mean much in a long season. We're talking about there's a lot of basketball left to be played, but right now Luka Doncic should be number one. We're talking about in these MVP standings. Like I said, in the last 5 games, the Mavericks are now sitting at 2-3 in the last 5, with losses to the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Rockets. Although the Rockets game was without Luka Doncic as well, so you had guys like Tim Hardaway Jr., Jaden Hardy out there being major contributors in that game. And you can see what this team is without Luka. Obviously, this team is completely different without Kyrie itself, just having that more firepower when Kyrie is healthy. But just without Luka at all, this team is nothing. I mean, you want to see a team that is even going to be looked at as even a middle of the road type team without a Luka Doncic. So that was obviously going to be a loss, or again, a game where the team was going to have to step up majorly. But the Dallas Mavericks have taken some wins again, and more so specifically in the last game against the Phoenix Suns, with the final score of Dallas Mavericks 128, the Phoenix Suns 114. That is a guy, that's a team, I'm going to talk about the Phoenix Suns. Obviously, they have Kevin Durant, you have Devin Booker, you had who you believed was going to be a major contributor in Bradley Beal. Those injuries are keeping off the court. That team can't stay healthy altogether. So I believe the Phoenix Suns are now sitting with a 14-15 record. But this is a game where the Dallas Mavericks, and I'm going to say especially Luka Doncic, took complete control, dominated in every aspect of the game. I'm talking Luka Doncic has 50 points, only the 4th 50-point game on Christmas Day in history. And obviously, Luka Doncic is one of the bigger milestones I'll get into in just 1 second. But Luka Doncic, 50 points, 15 assists. I believe he has about 6 rebounds, 4 steals, 3 blocks. And he kind of jokes about it in post-game. I guess nobody's going to ask about my defense, because again, it's always obviously the running joke. Luka Doncic doesn't play defense. He doesn't stay engaged defensively, which that's not fully wrong. But at the same time, I do always try to give, a little bit of leeway, just off the simple fact that Luka Doncic has, up to this point of his career with the Dallas Mavericks especially, but in the NBA in general, he's been a main playmaker, an offensive setup guy, a shot creator for himself, for the rest of the team. That's why, again, I was so big on having other guys that can do things that are not predominantly just based around Luka Doncic getting them wide open looks from the behind the 3-point line. I need other guys that can be versatile, attack the rim, cut to the basket if they need to, because that opens up many things. Derek Lively, again, in the past game against the Phoenix Suns, 20 points, 10 rebounds. Again, this kid is just showing that he is the perfect match and the perfect combination with a Luka Doncic. And Luka also gets into Derek Lively a little bit post game, talks about just how he plays, like how he's almost like he's been in the league for about 10 years. And again, and Luka says himself, Derek Lively listens to him. We've seen over I guess you want to say the tenure of Luka Doncic with the Dallas Mavericks. There's always some guys here and there. They're not necessarily on the same page, but when you do have such a young guy that just wants to soak up the game and learn from guys, again, like Tyson Chandler, and learn from guys that have been in the league and kind of give them a few tips here and there, you're going to be able to see Derek Lively continue to get better and better. And at some point, he's not going to need those extra talks because he knows what to do. But just seeing a guy that's a 19-year-old defensive anchor for the team be just that at such a young age is good to see. But like I said, Luka Doncic, it all starts and stops with him. Luka Doncic, it should be an MVP number. I'm gonna say front runner, the leader right now, just because this is a guy that does so much for the team. I believe up to this point he's shooting about 38.7% on field goal, on his 3-point field goals, excuse me, about 48.7, 48.9, something like that on field goals overall. And again, a guy that just, if he can just clean up some of those weak spots, like I've already seen through his career, it's kind of been the free throw shooting. His free throw shooting has been a little bit more consistent this year in times. So you're going to say Luka Doncic is going to continue to improve, but if he can stay engaged defensively and be a guy that you at least just know it's not an easy blow by bucket every single possession, then Luka Doncic, we're talking about being the best in the world, not just in the league, we're talking about the best in the entire world alone. Because again, Luka Doncic is one of those guys that he's still 24 years old. We can talk about his age and everything, but Luka Doncic, I believe, and for this season right now, he's averaging 33 points, I believe, a little bit more than that. I believe about 8 or 9 assists, 8 or 9 rebounds. As always, you know how that always goes. Just consistent across the board, especially on the offensive end. But Luka Doncic, like I said, just being able to continue to show that he can take some steps and continue to progress defensively. The Dallas Mavericks are going to be a team that a lot of people around the entire league better watch out for. Guys, I'm definitely going to be looking to see if they can get a little bit more playing time over the coming weeks. It's going to be a guy like Max Prosper, AJ Lawson. We'll see, because the trade deadline is going to change a lot for a lot of teams around this league. We're going to see what teams are calling around, asking for some of these guys maybe on the Mavericks. We're going to see who the Mavericks are calling around for, and we could potentially see some of these guys on the Dallas Mavericks roster right now not be here after the trade deadline. We will see how that goes, but you're going to continue to see guys like Derrick Jones Jr., like I spoke about, 23 points in his last game against the Suns. And we do know Tim Hardaway Jr., he's been talked about as one of those sixth-man candidates of the year. I believe he had 18 points. He's a volume shooter. I believe he was like 6 of 14 on field goals. But again, for Tim Hardaway Jr., that's a solid night for him, because again, we're just looking for the firepower for him when it comes to just shot making and just putting the ball in the bucket at the end of the day. Dante Exum had more of a quiet game, I believe 7 points. But again, he's one of those guys that if he's not having those scoring nights, he's still doing the little crafty things that's going to help lead you to wins. Kind of, I guess you want to say, I'm not calling him that player, but kind of like Jason Kidd as a player himself. Of course, he had a higher ceiling, but Jason Kidd, he would always kind of just do those crafty, small things that help to lead your team to some victory. So we're going to continue to just see these guys get better and better. Like I said, Derek Lively has just been a major improvement for this team. Obviously, Luka Doncic, we know what he is. Hopefully, we'll get Kyrie Irving back. Like I said, Derrick Jones Jr., Tim Hardaway Jr. Some of these guys, like I said, it's gonna be very interesting to see what exactly we do going forward. I feel like the Dallas Mavericks, we still are missing that defensive big, and not even per se just mainly predominantly a backup big that's just a defensive player, but a guy that's going to be able to be, I guess you want to say, somewhat sustain what we can kind of get done with the Derek Lively on the court. Don't be surprised if you see some guys again, I believe, who had this nice solid game. Again, to me, a guy that's going to just fit into what this team is looking for a little bit. A guy like Andre Drummond as your backup. Let's be clear. I'm not calling for Andre Drummond to come in here and be a major 30-plus minute a night game, 30 minutes a night type guy, excuse me. But a guy I'm going to look at to come in and again, just be a step above what we're getting. Because I've seen Rashawn Holmes have some nice games here and there, but again, it seems like he may be in Jason Kidd's doghouse for whatever reason, because the playing time is very inconsistent. And you're seeing guys like Dwight Powell continue to get playing time when you know what his weaknesses are at this point. He still does a couple things here and there, but I mean, he's more of an energy guy. He should not be a guy that's getting your major backup big minutes, and that's going to be a problem for the Dallas Mavericks continuing if that continues to be the trend. Get some of these other guys some playing time. Let's see what they can do, because we do know what some of these guys have known as. Maxi Kleber, I'm not looking at as being a major contributor on this team any longer. That's why sometimes it's starting to be a lot of people questioning what exactly the front office is doing with some of these deals. Josh Green, again, he's still a young player, but the shelf life on that potential is starting to wean out a little bit. So he obviously just got a contract extension. Now you're going to be asking yourself, who are some of these other guys that potentially the Dallas Mavericks could be looking to lock in? And I'm going to say maybe a guy like Derrick Jones Jr., because he spoke about just what it's like to play with a guy like Luka Doncic, a guy that plays, and these are his exact words, a guy that plays and scores at the level that he does, but also gets the rest of his teammates involved and keeps them engaged. He said he's never seen anything like that, never been around anything like that. So to me, don't be surprised if you see a Derrick Jones Jr. be willing to come back here, because I believe this is one of those quick deals. Again, one of the final pickups before the regular season. Do not be surprised to see him find himself back in the mix, because now you do know, again, he's very capable. He's still a young guy as well. So we are going to see what the Dallas Mavericks are going forward. This is going to be a team that's going to have to start to put the pedal to the metal a little bit, because again, if you do want to kind of find some separation between from you and the rest of these teams that are trying to jockey for that top 6 seeding position, or just find yourself back in the mix of those top 3 seeds, you're going to have to find some consistent ball, and that's going to start to me with just getting some guys healthy. The Dallas Mavericks again will be facing off against the 17-13 Cleveland Cavaliers tonight, 7:30 p.m. Central Time. It is a home game for the Dallas Mavericks, so again, continue to be able to see some of these other guys continue to just show that they can put their footprints on the game. You obviously know the Cleveland Cavaliers still have a guy like Donovan Mitchell out there, 27.7 points per game this season. I believe Darius Garland is still one of those guys. Again, any given night, we know the NBA is, and the Cleveland Cavaliers have some players. Like I said, they are 17-13 right now. I believe have won 4 of their last 5 games. So this is a team that is not on a downward spiral or anything. So the Dallas Mavericks are going to have to come in ready. When I say ready, I mean ready to take advantage of games from the beginning, because I don't want to see us getting behind, because again, I don't want to see Luka Doncic having too much wear and tear, having to work ourselves back into games, not having a guy like Kyrie Irving to take some of that offensive leadership, just more so playmaking, because I've talked about, again, Dante Exum has stepped up majorly. Tim Hardaway Jr., we know what he is. Some of these other guys have been able to put the ball in the bucket, but you're going to need your main heavy lifters when it comes to actually starting to build some momentum into a real long season run somewhat. So get some of these guys healthy, get them back. Again, continue to improve some of these young guys. Continue to get some of these guys like Max Prosper some playing time when you can. Continue to get some of these guys like AJ Lawson some playing time. Again, some of these guys that you could see by the end of the season being actual rotational contributing pieces. So you never know, but just continue to get better, continue to improve. Like I said, the Dallas Mavericks do have a game tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers, 7:30 p.m. Central Time. So I hope you guys will tune in, so we'll be able to come back and talk about exactly what the Dallas Mavericks got done tomorrow. So I appreciate you guys for all the support. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed your Christmas with your family, friends, your loved ones, yourself, whatever you chose to do. And obviously, I hope you guys have a great New Year's, as it will be approaching us real soon to 2024. So I appreciate you guys as always. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, share, comment down below for sure. Your opinions matter the most to this channel. Go ahead and let me know what you think about the Dallas Mavericks, what you think about Luka Doncic, Derek Lively, those MVP talks with, or Derek Lively just being a defensive leader on this team. And some of these other guys, like I said, Dante Exum, Derek Jones Jr., and Max Prosper, Grant Williams, anybody you want to talk about. I just want to know what you guys think about the Dallas Mavericks as a whole. I appreciate you guys for all the support again. And like we always say, go Mavs.